What's up, guys? Here we are. Coach Webb here again. We are on location in Lawrence, Kansas. Here behind us, you can see this is a rodeo arena. They've got an open pavilion back there. They've got another closed and indoor rodeo facility. They have another outdoor rodeo facility here at the Douglas County Fairgrounds in Lawrence, Kansas. Drove over here to meet my friend Daytona Lutz, and so this is him, in bull rider extraordinaire, working on it, moving up in the ranks, doing all kinds of neat stuff, hoping to see big stuff from him. But anyways, go ahead and say hello to the Kicking It with Coach Webb audience.
Hi, I'm Daytona Lutz.
Pretty good to be here, huh? It's pretty neat. You're actually the first one I'm filming, so hopefully this all goes good and it goes good for everyone. But anyway, so Tony, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where were you born? What kind of childhood did you have?
I was born in St. Joe, Missouri. I'm 21. Growing up, I was a military kid. My dad was in the Army. We lived all kinds of places. Started out, I lived in Hopkins and Pickering, right around there, until about 3rd grade when he joined the Army. We moved to Fort Riley, Kansas was the first place, and we lived there for, I want to say probably 6 years or so, but we moved around 3 different times there on base.
Really?
I went to 3 different elementary schools and then started middle school there. And then he got stationed out in North Carolina, so we lived there for a few years. Then we ended up moving back to Kansas. We moved to Lansing, and then about halfway through my freshman year of high school, we moved to Hopkins, and that's where I finished out high school.
There you go. That's cool. So you grew up military kid, moved around, had to make friends lots of different places and different things. What's like an early? So were you always involved in rodeos, or what kind of like an early rodeo memory for you?
I wasn't always involved in rodeo, but growing up when I was young, I grew up watching, all the bull riding movies, 8 Seconds, everything like that. And I did a lot of mutton busting when I was real little, and I always wanted to be a bull rider. I just always moving around and stuff, never really got the opportunity to start young.
So when you were one of them little kid, for those of you who may not know, mutton busting is where the little kids run around out there on the, what is that, the sheep or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Little bitty kids doing all that. So we met each other when you got to Hopkins, and when you showed up there, you had, so this was going into, was this the end of your freshman year or going into your sophomore year? I can't remember.
I moved to Hopkins halfway through freshman year, right after Christmas break.
So that was your freshman year when I was your baseball coach then.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember you showed up and you had a broken wrist on your throwing hand, and you kept telling us how good you were, but you couldn't really bat, and you damn sure couldn't throw, especially even when you got that brace off, because I guess you broke it pretty good. I just remember you getting so mad and being so determined to get out there and play and show us how good you were, that we were at a tournament and you were warming up the left fielder, and one day you just started firing that thing, backing up, and I said, well, where the heck's that been? If you could have thrown like that, we could have played you. And then, lo and behold, we went through that, and you've grown up and got better each year and played. And so would you say tell us a little bit about high school athletics. I know you're a big athlete in high school, did lots of different things. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'd grown up always playing sports. I was always pretty good. Then I got to high school and obviously had, like you said, a couple, like an injury or something, set me back a little bit. Had to kind of get myself back into playing shape, I guess. And then I ended up working real hard. I'd always played catcher in baseball. Ended up couldn't play catcher obviously because I couldn't throw hard enough to throw anyone out for a while. So finally ended up working real hard and getting back to where I could play catcher. And my junior year, I ended up all conference and all district. And then in football, receiver my junior year, and I ended up tying for second for a Missouri State record in catches in a game with 21.
I remember that. That was the same game you broke your finger too.
Yep.
Yeah, you broke it early in that game, didn't you?
Yep.
That's neat. I remember that was a crazy night. We scored. I don't know. We passed for so many yards, but I mean, hell, we still ended up losing. That sucked, but it was a neat night.
Yeah.
So I remember when me and you were pretty close when you were in high school. Remember that freshman year, your mom came to baseball practice after practice, and you had a unique living situation when you first got to Hopkins. I think that sort of played a role in you guys being so close with me and Mindy and my kids. It was kind of weird because like your dad was still in North Carolina finishing up his Army stuff, and then you were here with your mom and your brother and sister, and mom had to work second shift, so she's like, hey, I need and your mom, hard-working lady, good lady, said, hey, I need you to help watch out for these kids a little bit for me. I'm working my tail off, and I was like, all right. And so, when we went about everywhere in there. We caught, we'd go catfishing, we would do about anything. We always figured that if a mom needs some help looking after her kids, that's like the most important thing. So I know that. So we just try to treat you guys like as if one of our kids were staying at somebody else's house, the kind of stuff that we want them to do. And that was cool because we grew up, got to be real close. Deer hunted together, fished together. Now I'm driving around sometimes when I get a chance to watch you do some rodeo stuff, which is cool because, we'll get into this more later. Even I don't know nothing about rodeos, and I've learned more this past year watching you rodeo than I have any other time. But all right, so you're in high school, trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Your whole life growing up, you've always thought you're either going to be you said you're either going to be in the military or maybe play some college ball and figure it out from there. And so, my job changed going into your senior year, and I left and moved back to the Boot Heel where I'm from. And then the next thing I know, signed up to be a Marine, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what made you choose going into the Marines versus the other branches, and then maybe what some of the differences are between the Marines and some of the other branches for those that may not know.
I really didn't look into joining the other branches really. A Marine recruiter reached out to me, and kind of just went from there. I knew that Marines are always looked at as better than the other branches, so I didn't even really think about going anywhere else. Really, the thing that makes the Marines different, I guess, is they like to hold themselves to higher standards, and some of the things that people say make it harder, like the boot camp is 13 weeks long, which is different from all the other branches, which are typically around 8 weeks long, and it's just overall more intense and harder, and there's the culminating event at the end of boot camp called the Crucible that you have to get through in order to actually earn the title of Marine. And
tell us a little bit about that Crucible. I remember when I got to go out there, you told me a little bit about what involved in that, but for those of you who may not know, like Crucible is super hard, super intense, and tell us about what that was like.
So the Crucible is it's 3 days long. You go out, and in San Diego we go to Camp Pendleton up in like the mountains and stuff up there. We got to hike all the way out there. You've got our big packs on and everything, full gear, rifles, Kevlar, flak jacket, everything. You hike out there, set everything up where your camp is, even though you hardly ever go there because you sleep, I think, over the course of 3 days, you sleep about maybe 6 hours.
Really?
We end up hiking, they say it's usually around 100 miles of hiking or so, but on the first day, our drill instructor told us on his Apple Watch that we had hiked 63 miles, I think, just the first day. And you're going nonstop pretty much. You're hiking from one station to another, and at each station there's some kind of different team building exercise, or which always involves something like you would see in combat, in a combat situation, or something to prepare you and make sure you can work with other Marines, because that's the biggest thing, is you're not doing stuff alone. And it's just, and then at the end we do the biggest hike, which we hike up this mountain called the Reaper. And the Reaper, it's real steep, real long, real tall. And once you get up there, we're hiking up there, and they time it to where you get up there right at sunrise, and that's when you go through the EGA ceremony and get your Eagle Globe and Anchor and officially become a Marine. So
that's cool. I bet that was really satisfying being a part of that.
yeah, it's a cool feeling.
So when you were out there in training, you know, one of the things I remember you saying when we went to, you know, and I'll be honest with you, one of the honors for me, like one of the coolest things I ever had was when you sent for me to come out there and be part of your graduation ceremony. I mean, that was something, I mean, you know, I'll never forget that. That was really cool to be a part of something like that. I mean, and even when you were telling me when you were out there, like you weren't just like somebody following along, you were one of like the group leaders for a while. Like a guide or something? What is that? What's that all about?
So each platoon has a guide. It's kind of the leader of your platoon other than the drill instructors. So each platoon has a guide on, which is like a flag with their platoon number and stuff, and you carry the guide on at the front of the platoon, and you're kind of the one guy that represents the entire platoon, and you're responsible for the platoon. You make sure everyone's doing the right thing, everyone's where they need to be, and it's just, you're kind of a leader throughout the whole deal.
That's cool. And so not everyone gets to be that when you're out there.
No.
Yeah, that's something you have to earn.
Yep.
So that's a cool thing there. All right, but you know now usually, so we're still in the military, we're still doing those things. You graduate from the Marine Corps, you go back, you do your rifle training, or is that what they call it, rifle training,
It's,
or what is that?
Marine combat training, which
Okay.
is another thing that makes the Marines different from every other branch. Is the Marines are the only branch that trains every single Marine to be in combat. So every Marine goes to combat training rather than just the infantry.
Okay. So even if you're like a cook in the Marines, like you also know how to like
Yep.
participate in combat. So that's good. All right. So you're in the military, you're in the Marines, you graduate from the Marines, and so then what? Where do they send you? What do you do?
I was aviation ordnance, so I went to from Marine combat training. I went to Pensacola, Florida, for my A school,
Okay.
just to learn the basics of aviation ordnance. And then from there, you get assigned a specific platform, which could be F-18s, F-35s, helicopters, Harriers, just some kind of different aircraft.
Uh-huh.
And you go to your C school, wherever that is. I was F-18s, so my C school was in Oceana, Virginia. So that's where I went next for a while and finished up C school. And then after that, you get your permanent duty station, which mine was Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay. So they shipped you down there. So then, what's it like being in the Marines when you're there? When you finish all your training and you have a job and this is what you do? Like, you know, I got a lot of kids in my classes, you know, that are thinking about joining the military, and you know, you talked a little bit about how it's hard to go in the Marines, but it's very rewarding if you finish. I mean, like, so once you're done with all that, what's it like being a Marine? Like, just being a guy working for the Marines?
It's pretty cool. It's really kind of a daily routine that you can really get into, and it makes things kind of easy. We'd get to work. You'd have to be there by 6 in the morning if you were first shift, obviously. A lot of times we're working 10 to 12-hour days, sometimes over 12 hours. Usually we work 12 on, 12 off. Throughout the day, what I did, we'd be out on the flight line. We'd have to drop the bomb racks, like the racks that hold the bombs. We'd have to drop them out, clean them, sometimes swap them if they were due for swaps. We'd load there in Beaufort. We'd
You mean like the big bombs, like the ones that like if they were gonna go drop bombs on somebody, like
Yep.
that's the kind of stuff you're working with here?
Yep.
And you ain't talking about no little bombs, like, I mean, these are big bombs.
Yeah.
Was it scary working with those? Did you ever think, oh my God, this might blow up or something, or no?
Well, not usually. There's a lot of kind of safety devices on them. The rockets can kind of get a little like that. You have to be more careful with the rockets and missiles and stuff like that. We always took precautions and stuff, but you know, in Beaufort we usually just use like practice bombs and stuff, so they wouldn't actually explode when they drop them.
No.
But we went out for training at WTI, and
What's that for?
that's
people
in,
that don't know?
it's Weapons and Tactics Institute. It's mainly for pilots to get qualifications and stuff, but obviously pilots can't fly and get their qualifications without us doing what we do. So
Right.
we went out there. That's in Yuma, Arizona. We went out there and we got to load live bombs, a lot of live bombs and live missiles and rockets and stuff like that, and load different types of ammunition that we never got to deal with in the gun as well. So
Wow, that's pretty intense. So you're obviously not in the Marines now, and you didn't spend the 4 years there or the 6 years there or whatever. But so what happened? Like how are you not there now?
well, we were doing PT and we're doing this obstacle course deal, and we kind of got when we do the obstacle course, we're all in our full gear and everything, and you know, and we've got like full ammo cans and water jugs that we have to get through the obstacle course as well, because you know, I mean, they try to make it like a real not life scenario. So I was kind of the last guy back, and we're trying to get everything up over this probably 8-10 foot high log thing. There's a guy up on top, and we would hand him up an ammo can or something, and he'd pass it on to the other side. I handed up an ammo can to him, and he said he had it, and he dropped it, and it kind of hit me on the back of my neck, and he fell off there, kind of on top of me, and I just broke the end of one of my vertebrae off in my neck, and it made me non-deployable to have a broken neck, so they end up medically separating me.
So that means, so what does that mean so medically separated? So you're no longer a Marine, and then, I mean, so gosh, what do you do? Like that's what you know, that's like your thing. Like you said, hey, I remember you said, no, I'm gonna be a Marine. That's what I'm gonna grow up and do. So, you know, now you can't do that anymore. So then what'd you do?
Well, I come back home, and
Where's home at this time?
Hopkins.
Hopkins. So but we should have said this earlier. That's in northwest Missouri, somewhere. It's just north of Maryville, about 12 miles. It's right on the Iowa borders where we stayed for. I lived there 5 years, and anyways, go ahead. So you're back. You moved back to Hopkins, and then what? So your dreams are kind of not sure what you want to do.
I started riding bulls a little bit when I was in the Marines, just here and there when I could. Didn't know what I was doing, kind of got beat up pretty good when I did go do it, you know, just trying to teach myself. So I got back, and, you know, I knew I wanted to kind of do that when I could, and I knew I needed to get a job, so I just, you know, did what everyone does around there and got a job at Kawasaki for a while, and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because I didn't know at that point. And then I had a buddy from high school, Gus. He was on the rodeo team out at K-State, and he come back to visit one day, and he knew I was getting into rodeo and told me I should try out and try to get on the team there at K-State.
So, and which is funny because, you know, as you were a kid growing up and everything,